We kick things off with our hero, taking a look at the world in front of him and realizing that he would have never imagined being taken to a place like this. He is leading an army of 1,000 men, who are up against a total of 10,000 enemies, which is a very big deal. On top of that, he has also become a feudal lord, making him the final authority when it comes to sorting out domestic disputes. On top of that, he is also busy in very important battles with cute girls every night. We learn that our hero's name is Kurono, and his charm is in high demand, especially from his girls. Now, we shift to the present day, where Kurono is alerted by his head maid Alyssa about a letter from the imperial capital, which has come for him. He is happy to see that it has arrived, and he tells Alyssa that she has done a good job. Kurono goes ahead and reads the letter, after which we learn that it has to do with a great battle with the Holy Algo Empire. It seems that a total of 350 men were lost from the battle, and this was considered to be a large number. Due to this, our hero has requested his friends and colleagues to send some reserves to make up for the loss of men. Now, we learn that Kurono is the lord of the Elakis Marquis territory, and he does not seem to be disturbed by making the request of reserves. Our hero tells us that ever since he became a lord, he has been searching for a bunch of human resources who will help him create a team. The labor shortage will be gone if reserves will be given, so Kurono feels this is his time to shine. He wonders what kinds of people he will meet due to this request and hopes for some new encounters. However, things don't go as planned when we move 2 weeks into the future. We see Kurono being slammed to the ground by a woman who is a skilled fighter, unlike him. In order to save his own life, Kurono calls out to a man he refers to as uncle and taps out to signal he has given up. The people serving him rush to his aid to see if he is fine, and from the looks of it, our hero will make it. Kurono knows that we are confused, so he decides to tell us why this happened in the first place. For that, he will need to take us to a flashback that will explain the story of the girl who strangled him. Now we move back in time to the imperial capital, known as Al-Filk. We are then taken to a stable that is filled with horses doing their business. A short man, presumable a dwarf, calls out to a girl who is working really hard on cleaning the stable. He tells her that she is being very serious, but she says that it's her job after all. The girl's name is revealed to be Faye, and she happens to be the 12th member of the Imperial Guards. The dwarf man deals in horseshoes, and his name is revealed to be Silva. He tells Faye that her juniors are learning how to ride a horse, which he finds ridiculous. Faye asks him what he is going to do, but he says that he is a dwarf, so he does not have too many options as a demi-human. Faye, on the other hand, is a human girl, so she can easily join the Imperial Army. On top of that, she also comes from a count-rank noble family, and is equipped with a whole bunch of skills with a sword. The most important thing to Silva, though, is the fact that Faye is an absolute beauty. She gets very shy and blushes upon hearing this, so she rushes to a bucket of water to check out her looks. Faye is very conscious of her appearance, because she has short hair and thick eyebrows. This is why she believes that Silva is simply trying to flatter her, so that she can feel good about it. However, Silva is not the type to just say things for the heck of it, and he maintains that Faye does not need to keep cleaning the horse dung in the stables for the rest of her life. She can find her happiness somewhere else, as there are a lot of merchants who would love to marry a girl as pretty as her, and also who comes from a noble family. Faye argues that even though she comes from a good family, she does not believe that her house has anything of value at the moment. We learn that her family name is Mu'l-I-Fain, but her people do not have any kind of territory to their name. There's also the fact that she lost her father to an illness around 12 years ago, so her family is pretty much on the brink of ruin. This explains why Faye is putting in so much effort at work, because she wants to join the military and bring back the pride that her family used to enjoy at one point of time. Silva argues that she will not be able to do that if she keeps working at the stables with the horses. That's when Faye recklessly raises her spade and says that she will do so with hard work. Silva tells her to be careful with her tools, but she maintains that she will be able to achieve whatever she wants if she continues to give it her all. As a matter of fact, when she first came here, she would often get punished and scolded for her blunders. But that has not been happening off late, so it's a good sign for her. Silva is pleased to hear this, and then Faye asks him if he has any dreams of his own. That's when he reveals that he wishes to become an architect and make a figure that will go down in history as one of the best ever made. Silva also states that he has had enough of working as a horseshoe repairman for the nobles. This is why he has secretly been learning the art of architecture in his own way. But the real problem is that no one will hire him. Faye is glad to hear this, so she tells him that as long as he works hard, all of his dreams and wishes will come true. Silva asks her if she wishes to only restore her family's glory, but she says that it is not the only thing she has in mind. Faye also wishes to fight alongside the country's strongest knight, Leon Hart. Silva is surprised to hear this, because it is a rather lofty ambition she has. The dwarf man reminds the tomboy girl that she can't exactly ride a horse. Neither can she wear the armor of the Imperial Guards. She says there is no need to worry about such things, because she can use God's technique as her secret weapon. Naturally, Silva is amazed to hear this, so he would like to see a demo of the same. Faye then draws out her sword and calls out to God to bless it with his power. Something happens for sure, but it looks more like some kind of demonic energy that is taking over her sword. Faye believes that this is a blessed holy blade, but Silva knows for a fact that the sword is not at all God's creation. He is sure that it is cursed, and even says that it is the spitting image of a black knight due to the dark, muddy aura around it. This makes Faye a bit upset, and she tells Silva that all of this was possible due to her prayers to the goddess that controls jet black chaos. Silva is not at all convinced, so Faye loses her mind and tells him that he is very mean. There is no time to sort out this argument, as the leader has called for the tomboy girl and has sent a man to come get her. She can't believe what she's hearing, but Silva cheers her on because she might just be able to ride a horse and wear the Imperial Knight armor after all. She can't take this anymore, so she rushes away from the scene and towards the leader. Now we see the leader of the 12 Imperial Guards, whose name is Count Batil Pisyuk. He asks Faye how long it's been since she joined this squad, and she says 4 years. Rather than being happy about it, the Count says that it explains why she smells like horse dung. Despite Faye's shocked reaction, he decides to explain the mission to her, which begins with asking about the Elakis territory. Faye is aware of this, and she even goes on to say how the Holy Algo Empire had tried to invade the territory 4 months ago with an army of 10,000 men. Luckily enough, they were able to repel this attack with only 1,000 men, mostly due to the brilliance of our hero Kurono. Batil adds that there was a loss of around 350 men as well, which is why the princess had sent him a letter requesting to send reserves over to that territory. This explains why Kurono got happy earlier, as he had received a signed copy of the same letter back then. Batil is not too keen on sending his best people over to Kurono, so he points at Faye and mentions that it was not specified to him whether he needed to send any knights over to Kurono. This is why the creepy old man wants to send Faye to Elakis, and he even presses her shoulders almost as a threat to something shady if she does not listen to him. Faye knows exactly what Batil is trying to imply about her curvy body, so she thinks back to her father and mother. We already know about her dad, but we learn that Faye had lost her mom 4 years ago, soon after she had graduated from military school. She knows that the main goal is to restore the name of her family, no matter what, and by becoming the Count's mistress, she will not be able to achieve it. Faye asks if there are any knights in the Elakis zone, to which Batil says there are about 20, but none of them are even remotely close to the power level of an Imperial Knight. Now the Count mentions that the current Lord of Elakis, Kurono, was the same man who was able to halt the invasion of the Holy Algo Kingdom. He became the feudal lord due to his accomplishments, and he is clearly hero material. However, there are some rumors about Kurono doing shady things behind closed doors, so he might even be a villain. Faye does not care about any of this, and she is determined to show him what she's got if he is falling short of manpower. There might just be a chance that he will need her skills and expertise due to having lesser men as of now. But she says that she will obey the orders of the military and do as she is told. This is good for her. But the Count clearly does not like this answer, as she has openly rejected his advances. He even scolds her by saying she will never amount to anything more than a horse girl. Anyway, Faye asks the Count what she should do next, and he says that there will be a carriage heading out to Elakis the next day. She is then ordered to prepare her luggage and hop into the carriage without fail. Faye aggressively says yes to this, and there is a fire in her eyes as she is confident in restoring her family's name. However, that is not how it works out in the real world, as we see her flat on the ground the next day. Faye seems to have made it to her target destination, but she was sure that she was going to fail this as well. Basically, Faye had slept for too long, and this caused her to miss the first stop for the carriage. She eventually managed to catch up to it, but before anything else could happen, she got dragged along with it to the campgrounds. She is luckily alive and well as she rests on the ground, and she is asked if she is all right. It turns out to be a cute elf girl who is called Reservist Snow. She offers some bread to Faye, who looks at her with marvel. She gladly accepts the bread from Snow and goes on to introduce herself as well. She is a bit too excited about meeting this elf girl, so even Snow does not know how to react to her energy. Anyway, she suggests eating next to the bonfire, and Faye agrees to it readily. However, at this very moment, a shady elf man shows up and grabs Snow by the arm. He angrily asks her what she's doing with a human girl, and this causes Snow to drop her bread into the water. There are two other shady elf men with him, and they seem to like the fact that Snow is an elf girl. They want to take her along with them. But she counters by saying these men are nothing more than scum if they only look at her as a woman. This annoys the elf men, and the leader decides to punish her with a punch to the face. However, before he can land a direct hit, he is stopped by Faye, who puts her face in the firing line and gets smacked instead. This causes for a rather awkward scene as even the elf man does not know how to react to this. Faye tells him to stop bullying Snow, so he decides to take his elf men and leave. This must be to avoid making a scene with a human. And then Snow asks Faye if she is okay. She simply gives her half of the bread that Snow gave her, because the bread that the elf girl was holding is now in the water thanks to those shady elf men. Snow is touched by this act of kindness, and she says thank you to Faye for being such a sweet girl. Of course, there's a bit of blood on Faye's bread due to the punch she took earlier, but the girls get over it and enjoy their snack. After everyone is done with their food, they decide to hop back into the carriage and head to Elakis. Now that Snow and Faye have become good friends, they talk about their reasons for visiting the land. We learn that Snow's mom happens to live in Elakis, which is why she is very excited to see her. It turns out that the elf girl and her mom used to be in the slums before, but despite that, she was taken care of and raised properly. Snow says that she only calls this woman her mom, but when Faye asks if she knows her real name, she says it's Layla. She is said to have beautiful gold eyes and is a very pretty woman. However, it was due to this that she became the target of a lot of shady men in the slums. Snow hopes that her mom is okay, and then the girls talk about the rumors of our hero Kurono being a horrible person. This might be due to the fact that he likes to do shady things to girls at night. But this could be a false statement for all we know. Snow worries that he will call for her to act on his intrusive thoughts, but then Faye tells her that all will be well. This is because she will be willing to take her place if such a thing were to happen. Snow tells Faye that she should not opt for something like that because her first time should be with a person she loves. Faye realizes that is true, but then a dashing man calls out to the girls and tells them to stop. He happens to be a knight from Kurono's cavalry unit, and they have come from the royal capital. It turns out that he is not just referring to the girls, but rather to the entire carriage, so the driver tells him that he is here to deliver the reserve people. This calms down the knight, and he commends the drive for doing such a good job. He goes on to introduce himself as Cain, the leader of the cavalry unit. He then offers to provide safety to the carriage by having his men escort it to Elakis. Now, everyone makes their way to Kurono's land, and soon enough, they reach the Elakis territory. Faye is amazed by what she sees, and she wonders exactly what kind of boy Kurono actually is. Now, as she takes a shower, we learn that she had earlier parted ways with Snow and the other demi-humans. This is because Cain was using a magical item for communication and learned something about Faye. She asked him to show her a place to rest, but to her surprise, she was taken to a huge room which was worthy of a true noble man. Faye is not sure if she deserves this, but she really enjoys the pampering. She also happens to love basking in the luxury of items, such as a scented soap. She steps out of the bath and notices that she has also been given a nice set of pajamas that go with a fresh set of undergarments as well. However, Faye knows that Snow must be sharing a space with all the other demi-humans, and it makes her feel bad for having such a nice space all to herself. This is why she is determined to work hard for the treatment that is being given to her. She does seem to think that Kurono is a creep, but he also admits that our hero has a very nice face to be labeled as one. She still maintains that she won't let him do whatever he wants to her, despite his good looks. Now, Cain shows Faye her new horse, and she is excited to see such a nice beast. She gets a bit too carried away and starts to hug the horse, so Cain tells her to hurry up as there are a lot more things to look at. He goes on to show her the welding shop where he has one of the finest craftsmen of the land make her a nice set of armor. Faye is so taken aback by the treatment that is being given to her that she erupts into happiness and even proclaims the same. Now, Cain tells Faye that they will be having joint training after this. He knows that she must be very excited about the armor she has just been given, but she needs to take it off and come for the training. She says yes in an instant, and then we move forward to the actual training session. Faye seems to have made a good impression as she manages to defeat her first opponent with ease. The beast men are amazed by her skills, especially because she is a newbie. Even Cain admits that Faye is pretty good as a fighter, because the person she just defeated is the adjutant Minotaur, also known as Mino. Even though Mino is known to be unreliable and careless, his power is so great that he is capable of leading 100 men. The fact that he was defeated so easily makes Faye a standout warrior. Faye states that she hasn't really sparred with anyone since her military school, but her skills haven't seemed to have dropped, so she is ready for another battle. At the end of the day, all she cares about is restoring her family's name, so she calls out to the other trainees and asks who would like to be her next opponent. A lion man steps up and offers to be the fighter, so Faye realizes that she can't take him lightly. The lion man says he's ready, so Faye taunts him by saying she is always ready. The lion man takes the bait and charges at her with full speed, but Faye is confident that she can read his moves due to his massive wooden sword. However, the lion man has a trick up his sleeve, as he adds a step in an instant, rather than taking a swing at Faye. He lands a strike, and Faye is just about able to defend herself from it. She gets thrown away from the force of the strike. But this actually works to her advantage, because she now has some space between her and the lion man. However, this does not affect him at all, as he decides to attack her from a long distance. At first, Faye does not get why he is doing this, because he is going to miss her if he tries to strike from there. However, the beast man seems to know what he is doing as he manages to extend the wooden sword and almost reaches Faye, who just about avoids the attack in the nick of time. She is confused as to how he was able to pull this off. And that's when she realizes that the moment the lion man swung his sword, he let the wooden grip slide ahead from his hand. This allowed him to go for an extended strike, and it's a pretty neat move. That's when she realizes that the lion man is not just about pure strength or technique, but rather his mobility with the sword. Keeping this in mind, Faye decides to charge at the lion man, and she rotates her body with full force to be able to attack him with all her might. She manages to land a direct hit from her sword onto his, and manages to break it into half. As expected, the Lion Man can't believe what Faye has done, and he looks at her with shock because some kind of dark energy is flowing across her body. Anyway, the battle is over and Faye is the winner, but she wants to shake hands with the Beast Man as he was a worthy opponent. It's at this very moment, though, that something really important happens to her. Our hero Kurono has finally made his appearance, and he is facing Faye in front of everyone. He is glad to see how skilled she is, but Faye does not seem to understand that Kurono is the feudal lord of Elakis. As a matter of fact, she simply believes that he is a human soldier in the middle of all the beast men. She calls out to him and asks if he is free for a match, which would have surprised everyone else in the area, but not our hero. Kurono agrees to the match, but he asks Faye to go easy on him, which she agrees to. He gets ready for battle, but his stance is filled with openings, which confuses Faye a lot. She does not know why he is not even trying to be dangerous, but the look in his eyes gives the impression that he is a man who has fought in wars. Faye has a really bad feeling about this, so she decides to give it her all against Kurono, even though he had asked her to take it easy on him. This is why, instead of taking him head-on, she jumps and takes him from behind in a shocking twist. The idea is that she does not want to drag this battle on for long, which is why a sneak attack would be the best possible way to end it. This eventually leads us back to the present scene where Kurono has fainted from the strangling attack that Faye had launched on him. Of course, she would never have imagined that the man she just attacked was none other than Kurono himself. Kane has a good laugh about this and jokes with Faye that it is not a good idea to strangle her boss right after getting hired by him. Mino is a bit more serious, and he says that this is no laughing matter at all. Faye is in total disbelief, and that's when she realizes what her bad feeling was really about. At this moment, a girl comes rushing to the scene, and she calls out to our hero with a sense of worry in her voice. Seeing all of this makes Faye panic, and she laments how she has dishonored her family's name in front of everyone. It's only her second day on the job, and she has already lost her place. There is something a lot weirder going on right now, though, because Snow comes to the scene and asks her mom if Kurono is alright. That's when we learn that the woman who was running towards our hero earlier is none other than Layla herself. Kurono hears Snow referring to Layla as her mom, and this makes him wake up in an instant. This surprises Kane, and even Faye is a bit perplexed as to what is exactly going on over here. Now, we learn something even more confusing as Layla tells Kurono that he has got it all wrong regarding her and Snow. She declares that she has never given birth before, so he does not need to worry about Snow being his daughter. This leads to a hilarious pause between everyone in the area, and no one is more amazed than our hero himself. Faye can only watch on in disbelief as Mino comments that this is turning into something quite incredible. Even Kane has never seen Kurono's slave girls quarreling with him, so he is interested in seeing how all of this is going to turn out. With all the chaos going on right now, Kurono does not know what to do, but he can see that Snow is a young elf girl who needs support, so he tells her that she can call him her papa. Snow is a bit confused by this, but our hero states that he can't just let Snow live in the slums anymore due to reasons and circumstances that he can't reveal just yet. Basically, he wants all of them to live as a family from now on. But none of this makes any sense to Snow as she only knows Layla as her mom. Kane is impressed to see how quickly Kurono was able to come to a decision. But Mino says that our hero might not even be knowing what he's saying as he's just woken up from being choked. Snow has realized that things are getting out of hand, so she says sorry to clear the confusion. That's when we learn that Layla is not exactly her real mom, and she only refers to her as her mother because she was raised by her. Kurono did not know this, so he asks Layla if this is true. She nervously says yes, and this is all that our hero needed to hear. In this case, he figures there is nothing more for him to do over here, so he goes back to the mansion. Layla is still worried that he might not have liked what he has learned just now, so she asks him if he is okay. Faye is feeling left out in the middle of all this, as she did not even get the chance to apologize for her actions. Kane tries to console her by saying Kurono is a kind guy, and he will surely forgive her if she sincerely apologizes to him. This gives Faye some hope. But then Kane says it is not a sure thing, so she feels sad again. Now we move to the next day where we see yet another cute girl celebrating something that she has accomplished. Her name is Elena, and she is cheered on by our hero who says that she has done a good job. We learn that Elena is actually working as an accountant at the mansion, and she states that it is her first time collecting taxes ever since she had started this job. She clearly did not expect this to be so much work. But Kurono knows exactly how hard it is to pay taxes. Either way, our hero is pleased that Elena has put in so much work, so he wants to hear her report on the kingdom. She goes on to explain that the total income of the Elakis zone was 60,500 gold coins. On top of that, she says that the bandits which Kurono had recruited need to have their expected income redone. Basically, it needs to be decreased, and then Elena adds that the slave merchants had the most income, so they should be covering the loss. Kurono takes this as a good sign and says that his people are working hard. But Elena does not know whether he is referring to the bandits or the slave merchants. He reveals that he is talking about Kane and the others, and then explains to us that Elena was sold to him as a slave by the same bandits and merchants that she is evaluating right now. He realizes that Elena must be hating being put into the same business as such people, but that's just how life goes. Now it's time for the next report, which has to do with the Pix company. Kurono's team had sold around 35,000 papers to this company, and the wholesale price for one such paper is 1 brass coin. This comes at a labor cost of around 7 gold coins, but even with that expense, our hero is doing good at a profit of 10 gold and 10 silver coins. Kurono was a bit worried at first, because he had hired 10 extra people to get this job done for him. But at the end of the day, it looks like his efforts have paid off. Now we learn that there are around 20 people who are working in the paper workshop. All of these people are living in the poor house, and Kurono states that he thought 10 people would be enough at first, only for him to add another 10. In order to explain why he made this decision, Kurono takes us back to the time he was approached by a centurion and blacksmith dwarf named Goldie. He had checked the production line and learned that the material supply would not be able to handle the load. This was when he suggested getting another 10 men at the workshop, and Kurono listened to him without much doubt. Now we're back to the present, but our hero does not look too pleased with the way things have been going. Elena notices this and asks what's on his mind, and then he explains that he can't add to the material cost because the trees that they use for their paper are grown naturally. This means that he would much rather want to create a second workshop where they cultivate trees in order to meet the rising demand. It is essentially due to this reason that Kurono does not consider the profit to be a success. Elena simply tells him that he only likes to worry about things, but our hero does have a point here. He states that if they use even as much as 500 kilograms of lumber per day, then they will run out of trees within the territory. This is why he wants to stabilize the supply with an increase in the cultivation of trees. Now that he's done explaining his reasons, Kurono asks his accounts girl if she has anything else to show him. As a matter of fact, she does, and it happens to be a document about some new barracks that he's trying to build. Elena is under the impression that they are being made for the demi-humans, but they have not got any subsidies for the same. So she asks Kurono why he is favoring such people so much. Our hero explains to her that he is simply trying to build a new public space, and it has nothing to do with the demi-humans at all. He explains that the farmers will not have a lot to do during the winter, so he is giving them some work to keep them occupied and paid. After all, it's about giving back to the people who are paying their taxes. Elena is satisfied with what Kurono has to say, and she declares that there is nothing else left to discuss. Our hero tells her that she has done a good job, and she can go rest for today. For some reason, the accounts girl is not happy to hear this, and it causes an awkward pause. She asks Kurono if that is all he has to say to her, and he says yes. But this is not what she wanted to hear from her master. Elena is about to speak her heart out, but it's at this very moment when someone comes knocking on the door. Kurono has no issue in letting this person inside, but Elena seems to have a problem with it. It happens to be his lead maid Alyssa, and she tells him that Shin along with the other village heads are waiting for him inside the meeting room. Kurono gets the message and decides to leave, but he can see that Elena is quite upset with him. He figures what she wanted to say to him, so he goes close to her and whispers something in her ears which sounds like intrusive thoughts. Elena gets a bit too excited, but she also does not want to show her shady side, so she screams at Kurono and tells him not to say such shady things to her. He had basically told her to prepare for some intense action later, when she will come to his room, and it has got the accounts girl all worked up. Alyssa hears this, and she looks back at her master, but he does not seem to be bothered by what he is hearing. She asks him if he had just finished working on taxes a few moments ago, and he says yes. This makes Alyssa a bit conscious, so she tells him that she is about to say something that is out of line for her as a maid. Kurono does not have a problem with that, so he stands and listens to what she has to say. That's when Alyssa states that the people of this land are very grateful to Kurono for what he has done so far for their benefit. Of course, this comes as a surprise to our hero, because he does not feel like he has done much for the people of his land. However, Alyssa explains to him that she knows the real truth of the matter. Since she is the head maid, she visits a lot of people and hears things from them about the feudal lord. From what she has seen, she can safely say that the people here are much happier than they were before Kurono came to rule over them. Alyssa adds that Kurono had lowered the tax rates, which led people to stop selling their kids in order to pay for the tax rates. Now, the people of this land can take their time and enjoy with their families. Kurono did not know he made such a big difference to Elakis, but he is glad to have been able to implement it. Now, Alyssa reveals to us that he had saved her and her daughter as well. She thanks her master once again for the kindness he showed her, but he simply states that he was looking for a good maid. Of course, Alyssa is still grateful to Kurono for what he has done, because he is the one who has made it possible for her daughter to go to school. With that, the head maid bows down to Kurono and pledges her loyalty to him, even promising to return the favor, although that is not something he needs from her. He tells her not to push herself too hard, and then she takes his leave so that he can deal with the village heads. Now, our hero enters the meeting room and is greeted by a whole lot of people. By his side is Shin, who is another one of his slave girls, and also the priest girl who acts as the director of the poorhouse. He confirms with her that today's topic is to do with clover cultivation, and then she states that she had explained to the others how they could make the soil more fertile for the clovers. Kurono takes note of this and also checks out the vibe of the room. From what he can see, none of the village heads seem to believe Shin's words and have started complaining. However, they do not wish to anger our hero, so they must be hiding their true feelings from him. Now, Kurono decides to repeat what Shin had said earlier, and he asks the village heads to hand over their idle field areas for cultivation. He maintains that he doesn't plan on using the field right away either, because he has to take it one step at a time. First, he will only use 10% of the field to assess how the harvest will work. If it is lower than the average of the last 5 years, then Kurono will make the land free of taxes. This gets the people interested, so Kurono asks them if anyone would like to become a candidate for this. An old man with a bald head raises his hand and says that he does not mind becoming the candidate. Kurono seems to know this man as the head villager of the area that was attacked by bandits. It all seems to check out for him, so he decides to go ahead with the bald man. He also reminds him to collect the clover seeds from him, as he has already bought them all. It's time to move on to the next topic, so Shin takes out her notepad and says that they need to talk about planting. Basically, until now, there have been certain plants that have been grown in this land, because it has been a farming village. However, This has led to some bias, and Kurono wants to discuss it with everyone. Once these discussions are done with, Shin tells her master that she wants to end the meeting. But there is something else on her mind. Kurono seems to get the hint, so he tells Alyssa to arrange for the carriage. She then instructs the head villagers to come with her to the inner garden. After she gets everyone out of the room, it is just Kurono and Shin, so they can be open with each other. The priest girl can breathe a sigh of relief because she was really nervous during the meeting, and our hero tells her that she did a good job. They realize that it will be impossible to cultivate beetroot, even though it has already been mentioned that it can be used to produce sugar. However, the village heads are not too keen on it because it will cost them more labor. Kurono really wants to hurry up and make a whole bunch of sugar because from the beets in his field, he can only do a maximum of 50 kilograms. That is not nearly enough to start trading, so Kurono comes up with a new plan, which is to add beetroot cultivation as a job for the poorhouse. Now, Kurono tells us that Shin's dad was the one who started cultivating beetroots. Other people only saw it as food for their livestock. But Shin was certain that beetroots could be used for everyone's sake, which was why she never stopped with her cultivation. Now, Shin is a bit confused because she is not sure about mixing work matters with private matters. Kurono says that it is all good, but he does have one condition, which is that she can only sell her harvest to him and no one else. Shin is glad to hear this, so she thanks him for his confidence in her. As a matter of fact, she is so happy that tears come out of her eyes. This is because it's as if her father's efforts are finally being rewarded. Kurono is glad to see this. And then we move to the nighttime where Elena is looking for her master all dressed up for him. She enters his room and shows her outfit, but is shocked to see someone else inside already. It's none other than Faye, who still wants to apologize for what happened earlier at the training session. As a token of her apology, she wants our hero to pluck her innocent flower, and she presents herself to him in his bed. Of course, Elena is shocked to see this sight, so she wants to know exactly what's going on over here. She demands to know what Faye has to do with her master, but she only responds with her full name. The accounts girl is not interested in her name because it is finally her turn to do shady things with her master. Now, Faye says that she has come here as an apology for strangling him the other day during training. Elena has no idea what she is talking about, so Faye states that she is ready to become Kurono's wife, or even his mistress, as long as he can help her restore her family's former glory. Elena is just as clueless as she was before this statement, but even our hero laughs about the matter, so she asks him why he is being so casual about this. Faye explains that it has been 4 years since she joined the Knights, and she is finally able to ride a horse and wear armor. This is why she wants to ask him for his forgiveness at any cost. Luckily for her, Kurono says that she has nothing to apologize for, as the whole thing had happened in the middle of training. Faye can't believe what she is hearing, so she asks Kurono if he actually means what he is saying. She then makes a scary face to confirm if he will not ask her to return his horse and armor the next day. This causes a hilarious situation, so Elena asks if she should spell it out for Faye to understand. It turns out that Faye actually gets a note written down for her, and she takes it with her as she exits the room with a smile on her face. Now, Elena takes a seat in her master's bed and complains about how noisy Faye was being. Kurono can notice some kind of pleasant smell coming from Elena's body, and she says that it's coming from the soap he had asked the dwarves to make. Kurono is impressed that they were able to make soap with all the ashes piling up everywhere. Elena seems to be a bit nervous, so Kurono asks her if she has come prepared. Now he asks her how many times it's been for them together, but she blushes and says there is no need for her to count such things. He asks her once again, so she admits to it being 4 times of intrusive actions. Now, Kurono decides to go in for the action, but she slaps her master and tells him that are not allowed with her. This causes an awkward silence, and then Kurono asks if she has actually prepared for this, as she did not answer his question from before. Of course, her master is not pleased with the way she is playing this out, so he says that he is not in the mood anymore. Elena does not like hearing this. Kurono tells her to beg for it, and this makes her blush. He tells her once again that the only way she is going to awaken his intrusive thoughts is if she begs for him. And an intense session follows, after which our hero gets the clarity he needs. He recalls what Elena had told him at work about him worrying too much about the demi-humans, and he admits that it might be because he is trying to run away from his own guilt. He personally believes that humans should be born free and should have the same rights and dignity as anyone else. The next morning, Elena wakes up while her master is having an epic realization. She complains that her body is hurting, but Kurono reminds her that she was the one who asked for it. This makes her upset, and then she calls her master a stupid man for being so rough with her. She thinks that he is the worst, but he only smiles and calls her cute. This makes her shy once again, and she blushes like crazy, although she tells Kurono to shut up as well. Now we move to another mansion where we see a princess talking to her mother about something. It looks like the mom is not happy with the fact that her daughter does not have a fiancé yet, so she suggests holding a ball for her. The princess does not seem to be too keen on this, as she does not believe in arranged marriages. However, the mom tells her that one day, she will need to marry and give birth to a child. If the daughter is not that keen, then it could be that she has found someone she is interested in. As expected, this makes her blush, and we learn that her name is Tilia from the Kefous Empire. It turns out that the invitation letter has been sent out to certain men, and Kurono happens to be one of them. He is told that he has been invited to a ball in the imperial capital, and he decides to go for it as his father is over there, and he has not seen him for a while. He says this to Alyssa, and she decides to get the preparations underway instantly. However, our hero is still a bit surprised that he has received an invitation letter from Princess Tilia. That's when he decides to take us to a flashback from 1 year ago to explain the relationship between him and her. We are taken to the Imperial military's practice grounds, where even Kurono is present as a member of the training squad. His face is perfectly fine without any scars, and he sets his eyes on the flag mast that has been put up on a hill, as that is the main target of today's training. Suddenly, another member from the trainees declares that today they are going to win the drill for sure. His name is revealed to be Simon, and he is one of Kurono's classmates. He believes that if they win the drill today, then all the students can become Imperial Knights. After all, he does not like the fact that he and the other kids are looked down upon by the higher-ranking nobles. Simon is able to motivate the students to do better and become Imperial Knights. An example of this can be seen when a couple of students start to fight over who gets to drink water from the well. The noble student then asks the lower-ranked student to let him win the next match, as all of the other students have won at least once. Now we move back to our hero, who knows that Simon does have a decent amount of strength on him, but his studies are the exact opposite of it. Even so, he seems to be a good leader and tactician, so that's all that matters. After all, if he is able to unite the students over a common objective, then it means he knows how to control a squad. Now, we are told about today's drill, which is called the King of the Hill. The whole idea is for Kurono's team to capture the flag before the time limit runs out. At the same time, the higher-ranking nobles need to defend the flag within the same time limit. From the looks of it, the high nobles have been placed in a manner that makes defending easier for them. But there is no time to complain right now. Kurono knows that he and his men are at a disadvantage, but he is not going to let that get in his way. Even Simon spurs on his men by saying it should not matter whether they are high-ranking or low-ranking nobles. Kurono believes that it is better to fight and lose than just stand there and do nothing. Even Simon says that they can pull this off as long as they work together with smiles on their faces. That's all it takes for the crowd to go wild. And they clearly look like they are going to give it their all right now. However, Simon seems to notice something when he sees our hero walking away from all the commotion. He follows him into an open field and asks where he is going. It does not look like Kurono is running away. as he is simply searching for a decent place to hide in case things get out of hand. Simon does not like what he hears, so he tells Kurono that he should not even think about running away from the battle zone. He feels that this will interfere with everyone else's plans, so it's not really a good idea. However, Kurono uses logic in his arguments and says that they are already at a positional disadvantage. This is why they should be looking out for anything that could happen to them during the match. Simon is still not ready to listen to his advice and says that it would bring a lot of shame to a noble if he were to run away from the battlefield. Our hero simply counters by saying they don't really need to work so hard if they just followed idealism like he does. Simon gets angry and is about to say something to Kurono, but at this very moment, someone else enters the chat and asks what's going on. It's none other than Princess Tilia, who is admired by everyone from the high-rank nobles. Simon is in awe of her, but Kurono is not as smitten by her looks and charm. He then explains to us that Tilia is the first daughter of Lamel, the fifth, which makes her the true heir to her dad's throne. Kurono also tells us that he and Tilia were classmates in military school, but have not talked to each other since then. Now, the princess takes her horse closer to Simon and confirms his name after ignoring our hero. He says yes and confirms that he will be leading the attacking side, so Tilia tells him that she will be the defending team. She also asks him not to hold back against her just because she happens to be a princess. Of course, Kurono is also taking a note of this chat as he suspects something fishy. Tilia asks for an honest and fair fight, so Simon promises her nothing less. Kurono is still a bit suspicious about what the princess really has in mind, because it is not like her to act this way around low-rank nobles. After she takes off with her team, Simon tells Kurono that he is extremely overjoyed by the fact that the first princess decided to talk to him. Our hero knows this could be a part of the princess's plan, so he tells Simon about it, but he is not ready to accept that fact. Kurono tries a couple more times to talk some sense into Simon, but it is of no use as he simply tells him that he does not get what the princess means. He declares that he will fight Tilia's team head-on with his men, and they are going to win this by a landslide. Of course, he would only find out later that all of this was nothing more than a sham pulled off by the first princess. But till then, there is a lot to explore about our hero Kurono as well. How is he so close to the princess now if they were rivals earlier? And what kind of relationships is he maintaining with his slave girls? Are they all like Elena? And where are the rest of them? Like, share, and subscribe to find out in the next video. Hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload part 2. See you soon.